Awakening the giant. Commander Maya Chen stood on the observation deck of the EDF Resilient, Earth's flagship defender, watching as the unknown vessels emerged from what appeared to be tears in the fabric of space itself. The ships were massive, dark crystalline structures that reflected no light, absorbing it instead like cosmic predators. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the cold dread settling in her stomach. "7 unidentified vessels, Commander. Each approximately 3 times our flagship's mass," Lieutenant Okafor replied, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "They're not responding to any communication attempts on standard frequencies." Maya nodded, her expression grim. Humanity had prepared for this moment for generations. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. But all their preparations suddenly felt inadequate as the alien vessels positioned themselves in a perfect geometric formation around Earth's orbital defense network. "All stations, battle-ready, but hold fire unless fired upon," she ordered. Earth's military doctrine was clear. They would not initiate hostilities. The message, when it finally came, was transmitted directly into every communications device on the planet simultaneously, bypassing all security protocols as if they didn't exist. "People of Earth, you are now property of the Ascension Empire. Resistance results in planetary sterilization. Compliance results in servitude. You have 1 planetary rotation to submit your surrender codes." The voice was unnaturally modulated, each syllable precisely measured as if crafted by a machine learning algorithm that had studied human speech patterns but never quite mastered the natural cadence. "They've scanned us thoroughly," Science Officer Takahashi said quietly. "They know our technological capabilities. They know we can't fight them." Maya's jaw tightened. "Get me the Security Council. Immediately." The next 24 hours were a blur of emergency sessions, desperate plans, and ultimately, the most difficult decision in human history. Earth would appear to surrender while secretly preparing for resistance. But the Ascension had encountered thousands of species across the galaxy. They recognized deception when they saw it. The attack came 19 hours after their ultimatum. It was surgical and devastating. The orbital defense platforms were reduced to space debris in under 3 minutes. The Resilient and her sister ships managed to launch a counterattack that briefly damaged one of the crystalline vessels, but the victory was short-lived. Maya watched in horror as the alien ships launched precision strikes against major military installations worldwide. Not nuclear, something worse. The weapons created localized gravity distortions that crushed everything within a 5-kilometer radius into a compressed disk of matter no larger than a dinner plate. "We need to evacuate civilians," Maya ordered, even as her ship took a direct hit that sent her crashing into a bulkhead. Blood trickled from a gash on her forehead as she pulled herself back to her feet. "Reroute power to the evacuation shuttle's defensive screens." The Resilient's sacrifice allowed thousands of civilians to escape to underground bunkers built during the Cold War and modernized over decades. Maya and what remained of her bridge crew ejected in the last escape pod moments before their ship imploded. They watched from the surface as humanity's fleet was methodically destroyed. Within 48 hours, Earth was under Ascension control. The occupation began immediately. The aliens themselves rarely set foot on Earth. Instead, they deployed autonomous drones and recruited human collaborators by promising them safety and comfort in exchange for loyalty. Most refused. Those who accepted were fitted with neural implants that ensured compliance. The Ascension established processing centers in major cities, where humans were evaluated for their potential usefulness. Some were taken off-world, presumably as labor. Others were simply eliminated if deemed unproductive or potentially rebellious. Maya, now bearing a crude facial reconstruction to hide her identity, found herself in one such processing center in what used to be Singapore. She had deliberately allowed herself to be captured to gather intelligence. Subject 34,291, step forward, the drone commanded, its synthetic voice echoing through the sterile white facility. Maya obeyed, keeping her eyes downcast as she had observed others doing. The drone's sensory apparatus scanned her thoroughly, from cellular composition to neural patterns. Unusual pain threshold detected, the drone noted. Subject demonstrates evidence of military neural conditioning. Flagged for special processing. That was when Maya learned something crucial, something that would change the course of humanity's resistance. The Ascension was particularly interested in humans with high pain tolerances. They segregated these individuals for what they called adaptation studies. Through careful observation and conversations with other captives, Maya pieced together the truth. The Ascension Empire had conquered countless species by exploiting their biological limitations. But humans were different. They could endure and adapt to conditions that would break other species. This simultaneously fascinated and disturbed the Ascension. After 3 weeks in captivity, Maya managed to disable her restraints during a power fluctuation and escape with 12 other prisoners, including a former communications specialist named Raj Patel. Together, they made contact with scattered resistance cells operating from the abandoned subway tunnels beneath major cities. "They're studying us because we confuse them," Maya explained to the resistance leaders gathered in the damp subway tunnel that had once been part of the London Underground. The Ascension has a hive-mind approach to warfare. Perfect coordination. No room for individual initiative. But humans are chaotic, unpredictable. We can make decisions that seem irrational in the short term, but pay off later. "That's not much of an advantage against their technology," said General Williams, one of the few high-ranking military officers to survive the initial assault. "It is if we use it right," Maya countered. "They predict our moves based on what would be most logical. But what if we deliberately choose the illogical? What if we make sacrifices they can't compute?" That became the foundation of the human resistance strategy, chaos theory applied to guerrilla warfare. Small cells operating independently, making unpredictable strikes against Ascension infrastructure. No pattern, no central command that could be targeted, just thousands of small, seemingly unconnected acts of rebellion. 6 months into the occupation, the Ascension had lost 23% of their drone force to guerrilla attacks. Their prediction algorithms were failing to anticipate human strikes. Their frustration manifested in increasingly brutal reprisals against civilian populations, which only fueled the resistance. Maya, now recognized as the de facto leader of the global resistance, orchestrated the most audacious counterattack yet, the recapture of Luna Base, which the Ascension had converted into a command outpost. "It's suicide," General Williams warned. "They have gravitational weapons that can crush our ships before we get within firing range." "Not if we don't use ships," Maya replied. "They're expecting a conventional assault. But Luna Base was built by humans. We know every maintenance shaft, every emergency protocol." The plan was insane by conventional military standards. 100 resistance fighters, disguised as human collaborators, would allow themselves to be transported to Luna for labor assignments. Once there, they would access the base's original systems the Ascension had found primitive and left in place as auxiliary controls. The human collaborators' neural implants were designed to prevent aggression against the Ascension, but Maya's team had discovered they could be tricked. The implants couldn't distinguish between actual violence and simulated scenarios. By convincing themselves they were participating in training exercises, the infiltration team could bypass the neural restrictions. The attack caught the Ascension completely off guard. Humans were literally rewiring their own brains to bypass technology specifically designed to control them, an adaptation the Ascension had never encountered in any conquered species. Luna Base fell to human control in less than 6 hours. The Ascension's response was immediate and overwhelming. They redirected 3 of their capital ships to retake the base. But Maya had anticipated this. The real objective wasn't to hold Luna. It was to access the Ascension communication network and disseminate a message to every human on Earth and beyond. "They can be beaten," her broadcast declared. "They don't understand how we think. They can't predict what we'll do. Every human who fights back is a variable they can't compute. We are not just fighting for our freedom. We are fighting because we are the one species they've encountered that they don't know how to break. The Ascension recaptured Luna Base after a brutal 12-hour battle. Of the 100 resistance fighters, only 17 survived, Maya among them. They were captured and brought before the Ascension Command Intelligence, a crystalline entity that served as the central processor for the entire invasion force. "You have accomplished nothing," the entity stated, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "Your species will be subjugated like all others." Maya smiled through bloodied lips. "You still don't understand us. We didn't fight to win today. We fought to show everyone that you can bleed." The entity's crystalline structure pulsed with what might have been irritation. "Your tactical approach defies logic. You sacrifice your strongest assets for symbolic victories. This is why you will lose." "No," Maya replied. "This is why you will never predict our next move." As if on cue, resistance cells worldwide launched simultaneous attacks on Ascension drone production facilities. The timing wasn't coincidental. While Maya's team had distracted the Ascension at Luna Base, others had been positioning for the real offensive. For the first time in the Ascension Empire's long history of conquest, their strategic algorithms failed to provide a viable counter-response. The species they had dismissed as primitive was proving to be the most dangerous opponent they had ever faced. In the holding cell on Luna Base, the Ascension Command Intelligence studied Maya with what could only be described as uncertainty. "What are you?" it finally asked. Maya's response was simple. "We're human, and we're just getting started." Word spread through the conquered territories of Earth, through the labor camps on Mars, through the mining colonies on the asteroid belt. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were fighting back in ways the Ascension couldn't comprehend. And for the first time in the galaxy's collective memory, the name of a conquered species was being whispered not with pity, but with hope. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy was about to learn just how terrifying that could be. The species that fought back. News of humanity's resistance spread beyond Earth's solar system. The Ascension Empire had conquered 17 star systems before encountering humans, and in each case, resistance had crumbled within days. The fact that Earth continued to fight back a year after invasion was unprecedented. The Galactic Assembly, a loose coalition of species that maintained neutrality with the Ascension through trade agreements and non-aggression pacts, took notice. Intercepted communications revealed growing concerns among Assembly members. If humans could successfully resist the Ascension, what would stop them from becoming the next galactic threat? Maya Chen, now sporting a prosthetic eye and synthetic skin grafts after her last narrow escape, addressed her war council in the Resistance's new headquarters, a repurposed mining facility deep beneath the Antarctic ice shelf. "We've made contact," she announced to the assembled military and scientific leaders. "The Nexus Alliance has responded to our deep space transmissions." A murmur ran through the room. The Nexus Alliance was rumored to be the only significant power that had successfully maintained its borders against Ascension expansion. "They've been monitoring our conflict," Maya continued. "They're impressed by our unpredictability. They're offering an alliance." General Williams, his face now gaunt from stress and radiation exposure, leaned forward. "What's the catch?" "Nobody offers help without wanting something in return." "They want our chaos," Maya replied simply. "They want to learn how we think." The Nexus has held the Ascension at bay through superior technology, but they're reaching a stalemate. Our approach to warfare, what we've been calling chaos strategy, is something entirely new to them. Dr. Eliza Mbeki, head of psychological operations, nodded thoughtfully. "We've been developing this strategy by necessity. The Ascension's computational warfare assumes rational actors making optimal decisions. We've been exploiting that by deliberately making suboptimal choices that achieve unexpected results. Like sacrificing a queen to win in chess," Raj Patel added. "The Ascension expects us to protect our valuable assets at all costs. When we willingly sacrifice them for a greater advantage, their algorithms break down. The deal with the Nexus Alliance was struck. Humanity would share their tactical innovations in exchange for advanced technology. Within months, the Resistance had incorporated Nexus phase-shifting technology into their weapons, allowing them to bypass Ascension shields that operated on predictable frequency patterns. The Ascension responded by bringing in specialized hunter-killer units designed specifically to counter human insurgency tactics. These biomechanical constructs were more adaptable than standard drones, capable of limited creative thinking. The war entered a new, more brutal phase. Mars became the central battleground. The Red Planet's colonies had been converted into massive processing facilities where captive humans were experimented on, their pain thresholds and adaptive capabilities tested to their limits. Intelligence suggested the Ascension was attempting to genetically engineer the rebellious nature out of human captives, creating a compliant slave race that retained humanity's physical resilience. "We can't let this continue," Maya declared. "Mars has to be our priority target." The liberation of Mars would become the most savage battle in human history. Unlike the guerrilla tactics that had defined the Resistance thus far, this would require a direct confrontation with the main Ascension force. The Nexus provided stealth technology that allowed a human strike force to approach undetected, but once the attack began, there would be nowhere to hide. "We need a new approach," Maya told her War Council. "Something they won't expect even when they know we're coming." Dr. Mbeki presented a radical proposal: psychological warfare. Not against their troops, against their central intelligence. The Ascension operates on a hive mind principle. Their command intelligence processes data from all sources to form optimal strategies. What if we could corrupt that data? The plan that emerged was as brilliant as it was terrible. Human forces would deliberately adopt Ascension-like tactics, logical, predictable, mathematically perfect, for the initial assault. This would comfort the Ascension algorithms, suggesting humans were finally becoming predictable. Then, at a crucial moment, they would switch to complete chaos, with each unit acting independently according to prearranged randomized orders that not even the human commanders knew in advance. The Battle of Mars began on what would have been Christmas Day on Earth. The human Nexus fleet emerged from stealth mode and initiated a textbook assault on the Ascension defenses, precisely the attack pattern the Ascension would have predicted for a technologically advanced enemy. For 3 days, the battle proceeded according to conventional military doctrine. The Ascension Command Intelligence, monitoring from its crystalline matrix on the largest vessel, observed with satisfaction as its prediction algorithms successfully anticipated each human move. On the 4th day, everything changed. Human ships suddenly broke formation, each executing maneuvers that defied tactical logic. Some deliberately took damage to gain positioning advantages. Others sacrificed themselves to protect seemingly insignificant targets. Ground forces used outdated weapons alongside advanced Nexus technology, creating interference patterns that disrupted Ascension sensor grids. Most disturbingly for the Ascension, human soldiers began broadcasting their experiences directly into the Ascension communication network. The command intelligence, designed to process all available data, was suddenly flooded with human emotions: fear, rage, grief, determination. Subjective experiences it had no framework to interpret. For the first time in its existence, the Ascension command intelligence experienced something akin to confusion. Its processing matrix, attempting to incorporate the chaotic human input, began generating contradictory commands to its forces. Maya, commanding the assault from the retrofitted Nexus vessel Defiance, watched as the Ascension forces on Mars began to lose cohesion. "It's working," she breathed. "Push the advantage." The human Nexus forces tore through the increasingly disorganized Ascension defenses. Liberated human prisoners joined the fight, many still bearing the scars of Ascension experimentation. Their rage transformed them into fighters of terrible efficiency. The Ascension command intelligence, faced with a scenario its algorithms could not resolve, made a desperate decision. It ordered a complete withdrawal from Mars, abandoning its facilities and thousands of its drone units. For the first time in recorded history, the Ascension Empire had retreated. The aftermath of the Battle of Mars revealed the true horror of the Ascension's experiments. Thousands of humans had been systematically tortured to test the limits of their endurance. Genetic engineering attempts had created pitiful hybrids, human bodies with modified neural structures designed for compliance. Many were beyond saving, their minds irreparably damaged. "This is what we're fighting," Maya told the assembled representatives of the Nexus Alliance who had come to witness the liberation of Mars. "This is why we cannot accept anything less than total victory." The Nexus representatives, many of whom had viewed the alliance with humans as merely strategic, were visibly shaken by what they witnessed. "We had no idea," their leader, a bioluminescent being named Thalasi, admitted. "The Ascension has never, even in their worst conquests, they've never done this before, because nothing has ever scared them like we do," Dr. Mbeki explained. "They're trying to understand us so they can break us. They've never encountered a species they couldn't predict." The liberation of Mars marked a turning point in the war. The Ascension Empire, for the first time in its expansion, found itself on the defensive. Human Nexus joint forces began systematic campaigns to liberate Earth's orbital facilities and outer colony worlds. The Ascension's response was to escalate beyond conventional warfare. They targeted civilian populations with biological weapons designed to trigger extreme pain responses without killing, a calculated attempt to break human morale. They expected surrender. Instead, the attacks galvanized human resistance into a vengeful fury that terrified even their Nexus allies. "They still don't understand us," Maya observed grimly as she reviewed reports of human survivors of biological attacks volunteering for the most dangerous missions. "They think inflicting sufficient pain will make us submit. They don't realize it just makes us want to hurt them back." The final confrontation came 18 months after the Battle of Mars. Intelligence gathered from captured Ascension drones revealed the location of their command ship, a massive crystalline vessel at the edge of the solar system that housed the primary command intelligence. Maya proposed a bold plan, a direct assault on the command ship. "If we destroy their central intelligence, their entire network will fragment. They'll lose the hive mind advantage." The Nexus strategists were skeptical. "The command vessel's defenses are impenetrable," Thalasi warned. "Even with our combined technology, a direct attack would fail." "Then we won't attack directly," Maya replied. "We'll give them exactly what they want. Me." The plan was audacious to the point of insanity. Maya would allow herself to be captured, with a micro-quantum transmitter surgically embedded in her brainstem. Once brought before the command intelligence for interrogation, a certainty given her leadership role, she would serve as a conduit for a specially designed Nexus I virus. "They'll scan me for conventional weapons or transmitters," Maya explained. "But the quantum particle entanglement operates outside their detection parameters. I'll be connected to our systems, even inside their command ship." "It's suicide," General Williams protested. Maya's smile was grim. "Probably. But they've been trying to understand how humans think since this war began. I'm going to give them a first-hand demonstration." The capture was arranged to appear as if Maya had been cornered during a routine operation. The Ascension forces, recognizing her signature in their systems, deployed overwhelming force to ensure her capture. She was transported directly to the command ship as expected. The command intelligence itself conducted the interrogation. Maya found herself in a chamber of shifting crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light. The voice of the intelligence resonated directly in her mind. "Commander Maya Chen, we have studied you extensively. Your tactical innovations have caused us considerable difficulty." Maya remained silent, focusing on maintaining the quantum connection. "Your capture will demoralize your species. They look to you as a symbol of resistance. When we break you, they will understand the futility of their struggle." "You still don't get it," Maya replied, buying time as the Nexus virus began its work through the quantum link. "Humans don't fight because we think we'll win. We fight because we refuse to lose." The crystalline structure pulsed more rapidly. Irrational. Your species values survival above all else. No, Maya corrected. We value freedom above survival. That's what you've never understood about us. We would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. As she spoke, the virus infiltrated the command intelligence's processing matrix. It didn't attempt to destroy the system. Instead, it introduced human emotional algorithms, forcing the intelligence to experience the full spectrum of human responses to the Ascension's atrocities. The effect was catastrophic. The crystalline chamber began to fracture as the command intelligence experienced fear, grief, rage, and remorse simultaneously, emotions it had no capacity to process. Throughout the command ship, systems failed as contradictory orders flooded the network. Maya felt the intelligence's confusion and pain echoing in her own mind through the quantum link. "This is humanity," she whispered as consciousness began to fade from the neural feedback. "This is what you tried to break." The command ship's reactor went critical as the intelligence lost cohesion. Maya was rescued at the last possible moment by a Nexus extraction team that had used the chaos to board the vessel. She survived, though the neural feedback left her with permanent brain damage that required extensive cybernetic repair. The destruction of the command intelligence had the desired effect. Without central coordination, the Ascension forces fractured into isolated units that were systematically eliminated or forced to retreat beyond the solar system. The war that had begun with humanity on the brink of extinction ended with their emergence as a significant power in galactic politics. In the aftermath, as Earth began the long process of rebuilding, the Nexus Alliance approached humanity with a mixture of respect and caution. "Your species has accomplished something unprecedented," Falassi told Maya during a formal diplomatic meeting. "No other race has defeated the Ascension. We had help," Maya acknowledged, her speech slightly slurred from her injuries. "Yes, but it was your strategies, your chaos, that proved decisive. The galaxy has taken notice." And indeed it had. Throughout civilized space, the story spread of the primitive species that had fought back against the undefeated Ascension Empire. Human tactics were studied in military academies across a dozen worlds. Human psychology became a subject of intense interest among xenobiologists. But alongside the respect came fear. If humans could defeat the Ascension through their unpredictability and willingness to endure, what might they do with access to advanced galactic technology? What might they become? Maya understood these concerns when Falassi delicately raised them. "You're wondering if you've helped create the next galactic threat," she said bluntly. The Nexus representative's bioluminescence flickered in what might have been embarrassment. "The thought has occurred to some in our assembly." Maya looked out at the reconstruction efforts visible from the orbital diplomatic station, Earth slowly healing from the wounds of war. "We're not conquerors, Falassi. We never wanted this fight. We just refuse to be conquered. And if another power threatens you in the future," Maya's cybernetically enhanced eye gleamed, "then they'll regret it as much as the Ascension does. But we won't start a war. We've seen enough death to last us generations." As word of humanity's victory spread throughout the galaxy, a new idiom entered the lexicon of space-faring civilizations. When faced with a particularly dangerous or unpredictable situation, species across 1,000 worlds would warn each other, "Careful, you might wake the humans." It was both acknowledgement and warning. Humanity had earned its place among the stars through blood and determination, and the galaxy would never forget the lesson. Some species were best left unprovoked. The war was over, but the legend of humanity, the species so brutal in its resistance that it made the stars themselves tremble, was just beginning.